These teens and young adults haven't had consistency. They haven't had care. They've been in many loving homes, but some of our kids have moved over 50 times.
Effie, before we talk about the organization, tell us a little bit more about Madi and who she was and how she drove your mission.
Absolutely. I love talking about Madi. I used to tell her she was the trifecta, just beautiful inside and out. She had a spunky and sassy personality and a golden heart. When she was in high school, she went to Alonzo High School. There is a group home of foster kids behind there, and they attended her high school. And that's where she noticed that life was not fair. It matters where you're born and who you're born to. And she saw that those teens did not have the same opportunities as she did, and she wanted to change that.
So this is a classic example of our kids teaching us something.
Absolutely, 100%. And I used to take her out networking with me. We would volunteer, meet guardian ad litems, attorneys, because she wanted to get into law and actually make change for teens in foster care.
And now here you are carrying that mantle in such a huge way.
100%. Being able to say her name every day and live out her legacy and her dreams is my one mission on this earth, for sure.
That's incredibly heartwarming. And let's jump into a couple more questions here. What are the misconceptions about foster children? I mean, they're struggling their whole life in the foster system, but a family that may not even want them. And then they don't have consistent guidance. And then at 18, they're kind of dumped by themselves. I didn't know what I was doing at 18. I'm sure you probably didn't know what you were doing at 18. So what are these misconceptions? Everybody just thinks they're just, riffraff and they haven't done what they did, but that's not the case, is it?
That's not the case, but there's a lot of myths around that the kids are bad, they're on drugs, they're this, they're that, and that's not at all what we've experienced. These teens and young adults haven't had consistency. They haven't had care. They've been in many loving homes, but some of our kids have moved over 50 times in their time in care. So can you imagine moving with different families that are not really families, but strangers over and over? And what we've heard from our young adults is, I've had to change my persona because I didn't feel safe, or this happened to me, that happened to me. And then at 18, they're automatically supposed to be independent without having any guidance or support. That's just unrealistic and not fair to them.
Yeah, I have a son that'll be 18 in about a year, and he doesn't have the skills necessary, despite as many times as I prepped him. And I'm sure he'll be in his 20s before he's more independent. So, but that's with my consistent guidance for his entire life from birth to now. So I can't imagine, 50 times is crazy.
50 times. Yes, it is crazy. And it's not okay. It's not okay. And what I will say is the teens and young adults we've worked with, 100% of them have had trauma in some way or another. There's trauma that comes along with it. And so building trust is by far the number one thing. And we do that well. We build trust, we build consistency, and we build care with them.
And with your program, obviously, you're helping them after they're 18, but you just don't cut them off at a particular age. You try to continue to guide them as much as they need it for as long as you can.
Absolutely. Most of our kids are between 18 and 24 years old. We do support 15, 16, and 17-year-olds, except when they turn 18, they're in triage mode, right? They're going to become homeless. They need a job. They really need that triage support right away. So our goal is when they come into Madi's movement, our ecosystem is for them never to leave, but to become a peer-to-peer, to become a leader within our organization, to become an advocate. And that's where we launched our new Gen Board of Directors last year. And that's our junior board. So we have 8 young adults that are a board of directors, and we turn to them for guidance. They're taking on initiatives, and they get to practice leadership and learn those life skills. But we always go back to what our kids need and hear directly from them.
So that must be incredibly powerful that a generation successfully completed your program or gained assistance, but then goes back to that 15, 16, 17-year-old and says, hey, it gets better. It's not easy, but it gets better, and here's how, and I'm proof of that. That's got to be a very powerful impact to the children in your program.
Tommy, it's so impactful because just what you said, when those 19, 20, 21-year-olds go back to the 16-year-old and say, listen, I've walked a similar walk than you. Let me share some guidance. That's a lot more impactful than me or someone on my team talking to them. And that's the ecosystem of that peer-to-peer support. So what's been happening in the past few years is we've been getting peer-to-peer referrals. So the young adults referring their friends to Madi's movement, and that's priceless for me.
That's incredible. I mean, you talk about them not feeling safe and not being trusting and having to earn that trust. Well, there's no higher sign of trust than to give a referral.
Absolutely.
That says, I felt safe, you're going to feel safe too.
Yes.
That's phenomenal. If I am someone who, say, I'm 17 and I'm aging out of the foster system, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? If I was in that kid's shoes for a day, what would be going through my head?
Scared, the unknown. Maybe you're not even thinking for that 1 year ahead to your 18 because there are short-term goals or sometimes day to day. But being scared of the unknown. And like many of us, when there are so many unknowns, we become paralyzed and not know what to do. That's why it's so important that they have some guidance and support to pre-plan. So when they do turn 18, if they're in a group home, they're going to be kicked out. So what's the plan there? So that really needs to be in place. But I would say for most of our young adults that we've served in those situations, there's not a plan in place.
So you're dealing with emergency reactive services instead of proactive services where you knew for 6 months or a year, we need to work on assisting this child in a year from now, versus you probably get a call, hey, I'm homeless today.
Yes, we get many of those calls, and it's not a one size fits all. So when teens or young adults come to Madi's movement, they're at different stages, but we do get many of those calls per week. And we don't want anyone to be homeless.
So tell me, what's the size of your program? I mean, Effie, you guys have kind of almost come out of nowhere in the nonprofit scene in Tampa. You're very well seen. You've spoken on many things. You've been interviewed over and over again. Your program is just so impactful. And I think the community is responding so well. But tell us, what is your impact? How many children are you assisting?
Thank you for that. So we launched on Madi's 22nd birthday, which was August 15th of 2023, starting our program in 24. So just a little over 2 years, and we've been able to serve close to 250 teens and young adults. And so we're really proud of that. But what that tells us is there's a big need. There's a big need. There's a big gap here. And we know in Tampa Bay, there's 600 kids aging out every year of foster care. And we want to make sure that we're able to serve every single one of them.
Let's talk about one of those kids. I'm sure you have several inspiring stories. Of course, without sharing any names, can you tell us one wow story where you really made an impact with one of these teenagers?
Absolutely. I'll share with one of our girls. She did move over 50 times in her time in foster care. Smart girl, met her a couple years ago, so right from the beginning when we launched, and she wanted to go to FSU. And she was in college at HCC at the time, but she was so afraid to become homeless again. So it's scary to move all the way to Tallahassee in a new environment. And so it was challenging navigating the college application system. So she was ready to give up. And I couldn't blame her because our kids have a different way of navigating. It's a lot more cumbersome. So it was getting on the phone with her and FSU, help guiding her, walking alongside of her, taking her to college for orientation, having her meet the Unconquered Scholars program that FSU offers. So anyone that has spent time in foster care or homelessness, they have a whole community for those students. So making sure she was connected to build trust and get comfortable and make sure she had everything she needed to get set up for college. And she's thriving right now. And so she's on our new gen board as well. And so she's building a great life. She'll be the first in her family to get a degree, and just a stellar young lady.
That's amazing. And, I never considered, when I went to college, it is a little scary, but if I went to college and I knew something went wrong, I knew I could go back home if I had to. And most college students have that luxury. Hey, something happens, I can go back home. They're moving their entire lives. They don't even have money for storage. They're literally moving their entire lives into a dorm room. And if something goes wrong, if that GPA is not high enough, if a scholarship doesn't happen, is whatever, that's them being bounced out. That's got to be terrifying.
It is, because you don't really have plan A, B, and C in place, right? Because of all those things you said, Tommy. So it's the guidance, and it's what we do is really deep-rooted work. It's a lot of work, a lot of deserving work that these young adults really deserve to have.
What is one thing any listener could do to help this month, even if they're not in Florida?
I would say check out our social media so you can seek to understand. So we talked about the myths of teens in foster care. Check out our social media so you can really understand the reality of what's going on and what's not going on. And that's the biggest piece for me, is spreading awareness so the community really knows what's happening and how we can all engage to strengthen our communities. And
economies are tight for a lot of people right now. They may not have the ability to donate, but it can be just as good with them sharing your posts on their network, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's spreading awareness, because the more we spread awareness, then people really understand and want to be part of it in somehow, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. All of those things matter.
Is there a need for mentors or businesses or other organizations to get involved? And if so, how might they get involved?
Yes. We have our advocate program, which is our mentorship program. So we're looking for advocates to walk alongside of our young adults and really bring their industry expertise into play. So if you're in finance, you can work with a young adult once or twice a month to make sure they understand how to budget, but working with them consistently. Another thing, we're always looking to partner with companies. We want to be able to help the workforce development in Tampa Bay and have companies come alongside us to mentor our young adults and give them an opportunity for employment.
The very nature of your program can actually help the economy here by providing skilled labor after they're trained. You're guiding these children into any number of careers, all which I'm sure are needed here.
Absolutely. These are our future leaders, and we feel strongly, we love our Tampa Bay community, and we want to continue strengthening it. And this is an opportunity for Madi's movement to not only help our young adults, but help our businesses, which in turn helps our community as well.
What life skills do foster children typically miss out on that are just normal to most children growing up in a standard household?
Some of them don't even know how to order from a menu. They haven't been out to eat. We had a young adult, never went to Starbucks or Chipotle. We took him the first time, from a dining etiquette, from how do we shake hands and introduce ourselves, to really how do I deal with my home situation, like washing dishes, doing chores, very basic things like that. So many of our kids need assistance with. And then also getting ready for a job interview, writing your resume, and how do we network? I love taking our young adults networking with me because it puts them in space to meet new people and practice those skills, to shake hands, introduce themselves, and talk a little bit about themselves as well.
And on this podcast, I constantly talk about the value of networking. It's how my message gets out, your message, anybody gets out. But I never took a class in networking from high school. So that's an added benefit that you're giving them to help compensate for other things that they may not have had exposure to. So that is extremely commendable. And I bet you're open to volunteers to take these children to networking events as well, right? So you can volunteer your time by just spending 2 hours teaching them how to network in a typical event.
Absolutely, 100%. We have so many great associations and organizations in Tampa Bay. So if someone's a part of it, Yes, take our young adults and teach them how to build community around themselves, how to network, because I couldn't agree with you more, Tommy. It is our connections. It is our network. It is our relationships that not only help us, but help the community overall.
So we talked about involvement with business professionals, but one of the things you're looking for is for business professionals to invite some of your program participants to networking events just to get them a little bit more experience in the community.
It would be wonderful if volunteers invited our young adults to go to chamber meetings or any association networking meetings with them.
What's one tool in your toolbox that you would recommend to other nonprofits?
Collaborate with each other. Don't try to do it on your own. Be really great at your program and services and collaborate with others that are doing the same.
Don't look at other nonprofits as a threat. Look at them as allies trying to solve the same problem.
Absolutely. We can make much greater impact when we're collaborating together.
So, Effie, we have something here that we want to try on Tommy's toolbox, okay?
All right.
I'm sure you noticed the green toolbox,
Yes.
right? All right. So we have questions in the toolbox.
Oh, boy.
These are wild card questions.
Okay.
They're a lot of fun. I don't even know exactly what's in there. I have suspicions, but I don't know. So I'm going to open the toolbox, and here's what we're going to do. I want you to reach in, and I want you to grab a piece of paper in there and hand it to me.
All right. Here we go.
Okay, let's see. All right. Oh, this is a good one. Skydiving or bungee jumping?
Neither.
Neither.
Oh, my goodness. I'm so afraid of heights. I think I would do the skydiving.
So I have been skydiving a long time ago. It is quite fun, but I was adventurous and a teenager at the time. I do not know that I would repeat it.
I wouldn't do neither, Tommy.
Well, Effie, thank you so much for being on our show today. We really appreciate it. We love the mission that you have. The movement is growing in size. It's so exciting to see the impact you're having here in the community. If you'd like to contact Effie, all of her contact information is in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe to Tommy's Toolbox and go follow Madi's movement. They've got some powerful stories out there that you don't want to miss.